Welcome to the Business Women Australia podcast show, the podcast that brings together industry leaders to discuss the latest trends, insights and strategies. So sit back and relax, let's get inspired by the amazing women who are shaping the future of professional women in Australia. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
So welcome to this episode of the Business Women Australia podcast show. We're streaming live across LinkedIn, Meta and YouTube, where you can catch up and listen to us should you have to leave us during the show. But you'll also find our podcast show on iTunes, Spotify and, of course, the Business Women Australia website. I'm here in Boolaloo, Perth, and so is Vida, and we'd like to acknowledge this gorgeous country is the traditional lands of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation and pay respects to elders past, present and emerging. I urge everyone to keep our acknowledgements and welcomes in place wherever you meet and to keep building bridges between our modern world and the true history and wisdom of the Indigenous culture that's been here for thousands of years. It's a really important time to hold on to this. I'm Lynn Hawkins, founder and director of Business Women Australia, and today I'm thrilled and delighted to be joined by my beautiful friend and my wise sage, Vida Carlino. Vida's a renowned leadership facilitator. She's a mentor. She's one of my mentors. She's a coach, and she's deeply passionate about purpose-driven leadership. Vida's worked with countless professionals and organisations to help them unlock their authentic leadership potential by tapping into the deeper sense of purpose. Vida's been instrumental in my personal transformational journey as a leader, and I'm really excited that we can delve into this topic because as we navigate today's complex and fast-changing world, leadership is evolving beyond traditional models. Purpose-driven leadership is emerging as a powerful force, one that enables leaders to inspire, connect, and create meaningful impact. I have no doubt that this is a topic that's going to resonate with so many of our subscribers and followers. When we lead with purpose, we go beyond just managing teams and driving product profits or focusing on outcomes. We create so much resilience, culture, and long-term success. So in this conversation, I'm very lucky to have Vida with us because we're going to explore what it really means to be a purpose-driven leadership. And we're also going to delve into the upcoming Business Women Australia Leadership Retreat in Bali and how that could be a transformative experience for women on their personal and professional journeys in a truly and deeply immersive way. So Vida, such a pleasure to have you with us. I'm going to kick off with this question of what does purpose-driven leadership mean to you and how does it differ from traditional leadership models?
Well, purpose-driven leadership to me means being in your truth, rooted in your truth. And it means focusing on not what we do, but why we do what we do. It's the reason for us being in business or the reason for us doing whatever we're doing at any time. And it has heart. It's connected to our emotions. It's a vision greater than profits. It makes our heart sing, makes us alive. It keeps us on track when the going gets tough. The purpose
and
is
it's very different to those traditional sort of command and control styles of leadership, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's more focused on passions and values, even though it still has all the standard traditional leadership aspects to it. It's focused on why we are here. What is the important thing about being here? What are our values? What is our vision? And what is our long-term impact is more important than our short-term gains. It's the big picture.
And it certainly is, I'm seeing it change a lot too in a lot of the newer organisations that are nimble and in the startup space compared to some of the big corporations that have been kind of a bit entrapped by these traditional forms and structures that kind of lock them into profit-driven leadership models. What do you think is more important than ever, and why is it more important for leaders to connect with their purpose in today's environment?
I think it's more important today because the world is changing so fast. where the world is in a state of global uncertainty, where digital devices are causing overwhelm, where AI is causing confusion and insecurities. It's more important than ever that people feel safe. People can trust their environment. They can trust their leaders. People want more than just direction. They want meaning. They want to be involved in something that is bigger than themselves, that can sustain their own needs. You don't want to spend all day doing something that doesn't support who you are and who you're becoming. So, as you said, the small startups, they have more freedom because they're coming from that place, where a big institution, that's a big challenge.
Yeah, I was at in a roundtable discussion recently with Private Wealth Network, and one of the young, amazing founders, who's actually WA based but very international, he talked about how he's set his original enterprise up with the purpose of setting up a foundation. That was a part of the purpose of his business, was having a foundation that could make global impact in the areas where he wants to make a difference. This young guy, he's a young dad now, and he'd set this business up as a teenager. And I've been following him for years. And I was just reflecting on how his purpose is so central to what he does. And compared to my generation, that quite often, we looked at philanthropy and impact in a way that, and our purpose in a way that might come after we've got enough money, or after we've brought up the kids, or after, as a sort of extra thing when we can, or later. Certainly for me, as I could afford it, I'd, improve my, my philanthropy or my donations or my charitable giving, or any of that stuff that really did sort of align with my purpose and what it was all about. But I really find it fascinating seeing these different business structures even, and the enterprises that come from people that are so aligned to their purpose right from, day one.
Today, we're a lot more mindful. We have a lot more time if we choose to have time than what we did. We have a lot more information. We have a lot more choices. That's why big organizations around the world are implementing mindfulness programs, because they affect the bottom line. They build morale in the teams. They increase innovation and creativity. So a lot of these younger startups are already in that space. They're already aligned with who they are and what's important to them and what it means to them, why they are doing what they're doing.
So it's a very personal thing, isn't it? This personal purpose. And I think, I've been lucky to have had a couple of opportunities to be in your space, over the last few weeks. And, just reflecting on one of our women's Courageous Conversations events that we've had recently. And, so that seeing the penny drop amongst us all around, the heart-based, purpose-driven leadership and the vulnerability that goes with it. But still this disconnect between, I think, knowing that I can focus on my purpose and have this time out, and that's work for me, but does it translate to my workplace? Does it translate to my work environment? How does that understanding of personal purpose translate more effectively into leadership in business and workplace environments from your perspective, Vida? How do we bridge that?
Your purpose is not something separate to yourself. It doesn't matter where you go, it's still with you. We do a lot of disassociating and separating and categorizing and putting things into boxes. But your purpose is you. It's a byproduct of you being you. There's so many people that go around looking for the purpose. And I think, as I mentioned to you on that night you're talking about, how do you go and find something if you don't know what you're looking for? It's very stressful. So your purpose is the more authentic you are. And how do you become authentic? By knowing who you are, knowing how you think, knowing how you think, knowing how you respond with your emotions, knowing yourself. But your purpose doesn't change just because you go to a different place. If it's not aligned with your purpose, what are you doing there?
Yeah,
it's not authentic.
Isn't it? And different stages of our lives. I mean, Simon and I are empty nesters or very close to that. And we were talking about this last night, how is it that we now define our purpose if it's not to be, working for our children, to be able to provide and give them opportunities and experiences as a family? Like, what is our new purpose? And I said to Simon, I'm really looking forward to going on this leadership retreat because it's going to give me a chance to think about what's my purpose as an individual, me, Lynn, for the first time in a long time. What is my purpose? And I want him and encourage him to be able to spend some time, carve out some time to think about his purpose too, because we'll have some shared pieces of our purpose, but we're also going to have the opportunity as independent humans and souls to be able to have the space to nourish and live aligned to the purpose that we can identify as being our next sort of phase.
Yeah, absolutely. But you said something very essential then, is that you have to have the time and space. A lot of purpose and values elicitation work is a cognitive process. So it's just words on paper. It doesn't mean anything unless it's embodied. And you can't do that by thinking alone. You have to have your heart in it. You have to have your mind and your heart going in the same direction. With agreement on what is most important. And then you're in a state of alignment. But without the alignment, we're just running from one thing to another, or this is my purpose today, that's my purpose tomorrow. But your purpose does shift as you grow and change. But it is always a reflection of who you authentically are.
I'm such a newbie at this. I've always been very goal oriented. I've always been a checklist person, very productive. I've been sort of very focused on high performance, achieving a lot, getting through things. I sit back and I look at my life and I go, wow, I'm so proud of what I've achieved. I've created financial security and independence, from being this little girl who had to do it on her own and find this guy, and we built it and we did it together and we survived the struggles and all that stuff that nearly blew up the marriage along the way. But there's still this sense of, well, what now? And I'm hearing this a lot with women that come into our community, like, I'm a bit lost.
But that's get to know yourself, know thyself, as Socrates said. Know thyself. Like we put, and I'm speaking generally, but we put time into making sure we nourish our bodies with good food. We put time into making sure we're physically active and exercise and have a level of fitness. We make sure that we have jobs that can support ourselves to become financially independent. We work on jobs that give us the status and the roles and the importance that we desire. But how much work is done on really discovering who you are? How much work is done on feeling really fulfilled and happy in your life, or being able to be so grounded and solid in yourself, so purpose-driven, so heart-open, that doesn't matter what goes on around you. So you hit a big challenge, but my purpose is this. It will lift you up, and then you keep going forward. So it doesn't matter what goals we have, what we want to achieve. It's not separate to who we are. They can work side by side. And I think that is a lot of what goes on. It's like knowing thyself and valuing our authenticity is woo-woo. And now we're in a culture of trying to change that. Woo-woo is fabulous. If we didn't have woo-woo, we wouldn't feel love. It's a good thing to go outside of here and into here. That's where our fulfillment is. And they're not separate. We are not separate from what we do. We are either doing things that are in coherence for us or not, but we're not separate. That
makes total sense. Yet, there's so many struggles around, having this time for a clear sense of purpose. What are the barriers for that clarity? I've mentioned a couple of my own. I think for me, it's getting caught up with to-do lists and busying myself, so that then I feel like I haven't got time to have that time to meditate and contemplate and be around others. As you said, it's not something I can do on my own. What are the other sort of struggles that you see that get in the way?
Down to just a couple. The one is not knowing what's most important to you. If you value this, if you value being real and genuine to yourself, if you value having peace and harmony in your life, if you value being resilient in your life, if you value having happiness and love in your life, if you value having success and having all of that in your life, then you're going to place some attention on it. So, and what causes that valuing is your thinking. And most of your thinking is just pre-programmed. We've got 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day, and most of the same thoughts as yesterday. So unless you stop, get out of your normal environment, this is what's so amazing about the retreat. It's not you just going to a weekend workshop. You're going to an immersion into a different culture, into a different place, into a luxury, into a sanctuary. And like I have seen many times in events like our leadership retreat, is that women come along, they're so exhausted, they're so disconnected, they're lost touch with themselves as a woman or as whatever they identify with. They've lost touch with it all. But the funny thing is, they don't know they've done that till they arrive at the retreat. Because in their everyday lives, they don't stop for a moment. They don't turn inward and observe and learn and change. They're just doing the same old programming. And I'm sure you've seen it when we do our conversations, our cheese chats and courageous conversations, the penny dropping when the women realize, no, I've never thought of that. And we have this myth that we've got no time. It's just like, I just want to slap someone sometimes because we've all got 24 hours in a day, right? The most successful people in the world and those we've all got 24 hours in a day. And who decides what we do with that time? We do. So it's our thinking, not being connected to what's most important, and poor priorities, which get all those things evolve from not knowing what's most important to us. Because on another level, if the most important for you is to be busy all the time and that gives you pleasure and all the things you want and it's fulfilling, well, go for it. But a lot of us do that, and in the quiet moments, in the whispers of night, we're unfulfilled, we're challenged, and we're stressed. And we're out of alignment with our true self.
When you think of someone who is a brilliant example of a leader who's embraced purpose-driven leadership, who comes to mind and what impact have they had? I mean, who can we be inspired by?
I have one business that I love, and that is the thank you business. Their vision is to do good and to alleviate world poverty. And they did that by just changing consumer spending. Like whenever I see a thank you product, I'm going to buy a thank you product before another product, even if it's a little bit more, because I know that money is going to a cause that's warm to my heart. I think that's brilliant. They don't ask you for money. You just by changing what you're consuming already.
Yeah, who gives a crap is like that too, like with the toilet paper. I love that. I always feel so good when I see the funny little, as I'm unwrapping another toilet paper and there's a little message on there. It's funny. And it was such a great idea, and I love the story behind that one too. I mean, for those of you who are listening, I'd love for you to send in your examples of purpose-driven leadership that's inspired you, or ones that you see, whether it's during the show or afterwards. We'd love for you to direct message us. It'd be great to do a little article actually showcasing some of those on our Insights platform, which is Business Women Australia's publishing blog page. So, yeah, there's lots of great examples of that. I think, Vida, you obviously in our community would definitely be one of our leaders who inspires us. You manage to, be so present to an enormous family with grandchildren, children and grandchildren and siblings. and you and Dom and the work that you do in, the women's sacred circles and men's sacred circles and the common and the combined ones and rites of passage, and then how you actually work in your corporate worlds as well. You've been able to kind of, I love you guys because you're kind of like my favorite, can I say my favorite corporate hippies, but you're really professional.
We've evolved from our true hippie days many moons ago.
But you're impacting on the world. And that's, we were discussing this, we're celebrating 10 years with Business Women Australia. And, I met you, in the very early days, and I was drawn from a science point of view because I'd been doing my PhD in self-determination theory and all this sort of stuff, which I didn't finish, but I'd done years of the foundation theory development work. And it was very ahead of its time because I'm talking 2000, and I met you shortly after that, and I could see that what you were doing was providing a lot of the how-to in outside corporate environments, but I knew I could actually start learning and applying a lot of the holding space, a lot of the conscious listening, a lot of the it sort of was taking everything to the next level. And I really do think that we're very lucky to have you in Australia, because I think that what you are doing is actually is phenomenal and very new, very innovative. You're constantly innovating. So what I'm really excited to do is being able to bring a lot of those methodologies that are so based in so much long time learning and history that you're bringing through, and what you've traveled, even your work traveling through India, I think has really shaped a lot of the perspective that you bring in addition to obviously all the education that you've done, So let's go back to, many leaders clearly have focused on external goals, and it's not surprising because at the end of the day, that's what we're being paid to do. We're being paid to achieve all these things, and that's what our performance is measured by. But how can we as leaders start looking inward and discover a deeper sense of purpose without losing sight of what we're actually being paid to deliver on?
So having goals is essential. We all need goals, or we're never going to reach milestones. So it's not that goals aren't great. We can have goals and purpose side by side, purpose-driven goals. So I think the first thing to do is to actually take some time to be still. You can't find yourself in the noise. There's too many distractions. We have to have time to turn and be still. I love this thing, like at Google, they have reflection spaces where you just go and sit and do nothing. But that's where the magic happens. That's where the insights come, in the nothing. So, and question, is this what I want beyond where I am now? What is it that I want beyond where I am now? What warms my heart? What is missing? In a state of reflection, the answers, just asking the questions and allowing the answers to come when they come. And another great thing to do is notice what feels great. What do you love? What lifts your spirit? What gives you energy? What motivates you? What puts you in a good mood? What puts a bounce in your step? What drains your energy? What puts you in a bad mood? What makes you not want to get out of bed in the morning? In doing that, you'll get to understand what's important to you and what's not important to you. But if we keep just going the same way, we stay the same.
Yeah, I've just been reflecting on a meeting I had a couple of weeks ago with a globally successful entrepreneur who is a part of a community that outside Business Women Australia. He's an extraordinary man. And he's got a new office, and I went in, and the first thing I noticed was he has in the corner of his, on the side of his desk, was a meditation space. And I was like, wow. And the couch is there, and the meditation space is right in front of us. And I thought, wow, I love that, because here is, a very successful international entrepreneur, and he, that's a statement about, and it's a message to me to say, this is all important. This is how I'm successful, is having that time out. He meditates, and I asked him about it, as we were leaving. He said, yeah. He said he's still setting it up the way he wants, but it's there for his meditation time. And I'm like, oh God, I love that. And I love that it's not hidden away and that it's right there where you're sitting.
And I love that it's not something separate. It's part of your everyday life. It's not like, oh, I get up and meditate for half an hour, and if I don't, oh my God, I can't do it. You can integrate small moments into your day. Look what happened when we just before we started this podcast. I was running late and I arrived and I was really discombobulated. And we just did a little grounding for a couple of minutes, and all of a sudden we were back, centered, clear, and present. So it doesn't have to be something hard. It can be really easy.
Yeah. Look, I've been using it for my practices, as you know, over the last few years. As I'm learning, I'm experimenting with my clients, and most of them are like lawyers and accountants and engineers. And it's been great, because even having those opportunities to do some grounding before we meet, and then checking in around our feelings, and it's just been extraordinary seeing the shifts in the culture within the teams as the energy changes, and the agendas become more honest, and the relationships amongst the team members become more caring and understanding and less judgmental. And it's so good to know when someone sits down and says, I haven't slept all night, the kids just kept coming in and out of the bedroom, and then you kind of know where they're coming from, and you wouldn't have known that. You might not have understood why they were being short before, or
Just doing a check-in embraces human nature, and it lets us all witness and observe that we are all the same. We all have the same sort of challenges. I'm not separate to you, you're not separate to me. It gives us permission to be more human, to be more genuine, to be more real, to be more authentic. Check-ins are absolutely amazing. And just doing things, a quiet pause before you start a meeting, 30 seconds, a minute, it doesn't have to be long. I know for myself, and those that know me, I preach this all the time, but I'm a pause addict. Like when I get in my car, I pause for a minute. I just take a few breaths, check in with myself. How am I going? Is this how I want to be? And if it isn't how I want to be, okay, take on that state and be more grounded and centered. Before I go into work, I pause. Before I make phone calls, I pause. Definitely pause before I walk in the front door at home. Go, okay, let go of all that and let me be fully here, present. Let me meet my husband with an open heart and a good state. So, and you can go to the bathroom and pause. You can pause anywhere. It's just starting a practice, because the whole thing about mindfulness is it's a practice, right? So we want to have purpose-driven. We want to be more authentic. We want to be more real and genuine. Then it all starts with awareness. Everything starts with awareness. And what is mindfulness? But awareness, the awareness that arises from intentionally putting our attention on the moment with an attitude of loving kindness and non-judgment. So we can do that. We can build that muscle of awareness just by integrating tiny little practices into our day. By listening before we speak, by pausing before we respond, by taking a breath and being present when we feel agitated or triggered in some way. There's lots of things we can do.
And that's the point, isn't it? Look, I was thinking as you were, first mentioned the power of the pause. I remembered a book I read, The Third Space. So intellectually, I'm reading all this stuff, right? I've read all the books. But am I actually applying it? So the awareness is there, but then the intention has to be translated into an action, right?
So I wouldn't say the awareness is there. I'd say the knowledge is there. You know how to there. Awareness comes from actually experiencing. So you're getting the cognitive, but no experiencing. You know what to do. You know step 1, 2, 3 of meditating. I know box breathing. I know this, but I never do it. Theory doesn't change anything. It's the practice and the experience that changes it. And why are they not part of your routine? Because they're not important. If they were important, they'd be part of your routine. And that's why it's so important about doing values elicitation and purpose exercises and visioning exercises experientially, not just cognitively. You've got to do them both. And so that you can really embody your learning and not just keep it up here.
So I've got in my questions here, you know, this other sort of, there's all this sort of stuff around emotional intelligence. I mean, where does that all fit in when it comes to leading with purpose? Now I go, I'm emotionally intelligent.
Sometimes we all are emotionally intelligent. Emotional intelligence is just awareness again, self-awareness, emotional intelligence. It's the awareness of your emotions, how you identify them, how you manage them, how you relate to them, and how you relate to others' emotions and behaviors. So it's awareness again. It's knowing what triggers you. So if you do not have awareness, if you have awareness, you're responding to your triggers, but you don't know that you're doing that. You don't have the awareness to see that your habits, your conditioning, your programming, your triggers are defining what you're doing, how you're responding, how you're living, and not you. Yeah. Awareness is key to everything. If you don't have awareness, nothing changes.
Wow. You know, I've just had this profound realization about how I've been thinking where I am, but I have this trigger that actually makes me kind of like, if I'm angry, I've learned how to kind of hide it and try and see the good in the other person, see the perspective of someone else, not get caught up in the drama. It's just like a learned response that's been a part of my survival. And I've just been thinking about one of my kids saying to me, Mum, you know, you're the master at being happy and you're not always being honest with yourself. Like, until you sit with this kind of conversation even, you know, and I'm sort of thinking really about and listening, like I'm really trying to focus on what you're saying without thinking about how I'm going to respond, even though I've got these questions here, but I'm really trying to practice, like really dropping into this conversation, and all this shit's coming up, like this memory of like Giddy saying to me, Mum, you're addicted to being happy. What are you really feeling? Like, you've got to sit with what your real feelings are. You know, so I've got this whole thing about this is, you know, who am I? I'm a happy person. I'm always understanding of others. I don't have conflict in my life. I'm all these things, right?
Sound like a saint.
I'm anything but a saint, excuse the French. But, and then, because what happens is then I blow up. When it does blow up, it's really bad. So I'm really looking forward to Bali, I've got to say. Capri on Bali, August the 7th. The 7th to the 10th is going to be in Bali. So this is really, and like for those of you who are probably listening and thinking this is kind of like not what you're expecting, but the reality is that this is the stuff that I know I'm yearning for, and I have no doubt that a lot of you guys that are in our community, our followers, our subscribers, and our allies probably are yearning. I know some guys that will be going, can we come to the Bali retreat too? We'll do one for you guys through Vida's business. So how can leaders cultivate more resilience and authenticity while staying true to their purpose in times when there's chaos, when there's this pressure on them to perform, when we've got all these issues? You know, we've got so many issues at the moment facing us with all these tariffs, It's going to be so hard to be competitive. We've got a shortage of staff. We're all doing more than ever before to try and achieve the productivity results that we've had in the past. And, there are times when it's like, what is it? How can we just hold on, let alone focus on what seems to be a luxury?
What seems to be a luxury?
It seems to be a luxury to be able to have time out to work on yourself.
It's not a luxury, it's essential. It's essential. Look at the boom in depression, anxiety, burnout, overwhelm. People with great careers chucking them in because they've got burnout. It is not a luxury, it is essential. And that's just conditioned thinking. That's a luxury. It's just as important as meeting your goals. It's just as important as having money to live on. It's just as important as having love in your life. It is essential to nourish and look after you. What sort of leader are you? What sort of leader are you if you are responsive all the time? What sort of leader are you if you say, don't show your emotions? They're not welcome here. A purpose-driven leader, a heartfelt leader, a vulnerable leader, a true, authentic leader is willing to be seen, is willing to speak their truth, and is willing to sit in the discomfort and not shrink and not hide and not shut down. And in doing so, giving everybody else permission to be real and genuine themselves. And that's where purpose-driven leadership really comes from, being real. And sure, there's times there's times when we're not going to be real. There's times when we're caught up in our own systems and our own this and that. But being able to acknowledge I was there is real. Being willing to say, this is me. This is me. This is what I am. And there is so much research on that, how authentic, genuine, purpose-driven leaders, to me, they're all the same, just different labels for the same thing. They inspire people. They build trust in people. They give permission to people to step up and be greater and to be more complete and whole as themselves. They're not all separate. And the only reason that we suppress stuff is we haven't practiced letting it out. And I get it's hard in everyday life. When you go on a retreat, when you go to a beautiful place like we're going to, it's easy to drop the armor and let the truth be seen. But once the armor's dropped, it's the practices that keep it off. And that's why through the weekend, we have a lot of mindfulness practice integrated to every process so that when the women leave and move back into their days, they have all these skills that they've experienced, they're experiential, they're embodied. And it's not just something they know.
Well, that's a great segue into discussing the retreat, because we've booked the whole of Blue Karma Resort. We'll have 20 extraordinary women joining us. We've still got plenty of places available. We're talking about the 7th to the 10th of August this year. So anyone who's listening to this who wants to join us, reach out. Vida, tell us a little bit about how this retreat environment and the program is going to help all our women who join us develop that deeper understanding of their purpose.
As I've said before, your purpose comes from a result of really knowing you, of being your whole self, your authentic self. So that's what we're focusing on. So the retreat is a combination of ancient wisdom practices and modern contemporary techniques. So it is both experiential and cognitive in nature, with mindfulness through the whole program. I want everyone to work away and be able to ground themselves, be able to calm their mind and open their heart in any situation. So we sort of go through this layered approach. So we start with the arriving, and the arriving is all about grounding, letting go of all the noise, letting go of everything that we've had to go through to get here, and fully arriving and letting go. So there's processes we do for that. The next stage is the exploration stage, where we start to explore our values, and all of these are cognitive and experiential. We start to explore our values, our voice, our leadership styles, our masculine and feminine nature, and how we sit in relationship to those, and how dominant is one over another. We explore our emotional intelligence and emotional resilience in both experiential and cognitive ways. I'm just starting to laugh because I know what it is. And we really focus on what matters, what's most important to you. Then we go into what's called the unraveling stage. And this is the awakening stage. This is the juicy liminal space stage where we're returning to the truth, where our awareness is expanded. And we start to see ourselves and our situations and our relationships with a whole new perspective and a deeper understanding and insight. So that feeds us into the awareness and skills stage, where we do a lot of work on our purpose and our coherence. So we look at aligning our mental intelligence, our heart intelligence, and our gut intelligence. So, which is a very beautiful process. And we also look at like our masculine and feminine leadership, and the type of leadership that we have come into the retreat with, and the type of leadership we want to leave the retreat with. Then we come into a really conscious and deliberate integration and embodiment process, a strong anchoring, so that when you leave the retreat, it's done. I don't know if you've had this experience, but I've had it many times. I go to a retreat, a workshop, a seminar, an event, and I get so inspired and I'm so onto it. I've just changed my life. I've got this. I know this process. I know all this. I'm on. I've spent all this money. I'm not going to waste it. And then I get home and I forgot all about it, and nothing ever happens with it. I bought the books that I never read, and that's because it was all up here. And I was getting off on someone else's inspiration instead of my own. So it's a very embodied integration. So we take away with it in our bodies, done. And then last but not least, you come away part of this really amazing belonging community with a sisterhood that cares, inspires, and is always there. So that's sort of the process of the weekend, what we go through. But if you look at more like what the actual processes or workshop areas are, there's a lot on mindfulness and making mindfulness part of your everyday work day, not something separate. We explore our conscious communication, which means radical listening, really developing the skills of radical listening, being present without agenda, without needing to know, fix, or alter. We look at intentional speaking deliberately and consciously with purpose and reason. And my favorite, and we learn to hold space, not just for ourselves, but for others. We learn to be an empty vessel that empowers others to show up more truthfully and honestly for themselves. We do values elicitation, which may be a little bit different to standard. It is definitely different to standard value elicitations, and I'm looking forward to what comes out of that, because we've got a really fun part in that. We're going to do stuff on the leader you were to the leader you're becoming, and dealing with all the automatic conditioning patterns, programming, and unfolding. That's the unfolding bit. And then we're into purpose and vision, rediscovering your why, what gets you up, inspires you, makes you feel full of love and life. And then we align our intelligence, as I said before. And then we do circle work as well in there, and some very profound, open personal development. Is that all?
Wait, I'm hanging out. I just loved the time I spent with you the other day going through the detail with you, and to hear you summarize it like that, I can just see this is an extraordinary opportunity for the time to lead self, to know self, to replenish, to set aside, to reflect, to learn new things that we can take outside this experience into our everyday lives to be more effective leaders of self and leaders of others. It's really an extraordinary opportunity, and I know that anyone who does give themselves permission and carve out the time to come along and join us on this retreat will not regret it. It's going to be extraordinary. I cannot wait. I'm also looking forward to a little bit of extra time where I might stay on for a day or two for a few cocktails by the pool.
I'll be there with you.
I can't wait to be over there in Bali with you, and to be in such a safe environment, to be able to explore who I am and what I stand for and what my deepest purpose is and what brings me my greatest joy and sense of truth. What as you said, it's rooted in my truth, this idea of purpose-driven leadership. And I'm really excited to be exploring that with the safety of your guidance. Vida, thank you very much for being on the show today. And thank you so much for everything you bring to our community. It's extraordinary. We're so lucky to have you.
And I'm so lucky to be part of this community because I get so much out of this community. It is a rich, rich community. And I haven't been to one like this, not with business women. I have not experienced this anywhere else. So I want to salute you. It's beautiful. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Vida. Such an insightful discussion about purpose-driven leadership in our Business Women Australia podcast show today. And there are transformative experiences awaiting participants at the BWA Leadership Retreat. For our listeners, if you are feeling called to rediscover your purpose, to elevate your leadership and connect with a like-minded community of inspiring women, this retreat and our community could be a game changer for you. So we're offering a special deal for members and for non-members who book into the retreat before the end of April. There's a free bonus 6 months of membership at our connector level. So if you can tap into all the benefits of being a connector level member, if leadership membership is what you're after, our leaders are our co-creators. They're our greatest partners and supporters financially. We will also offer a bonus 3 months on a leader membership, whether you're a current member or you're new to our leadership premium package. So thank you for joining us. Thanks for listening in. I, for one, are super excited about attending the Business Women Australia Leadership Retreat. Please reach out to me or to Vida or head to the Business Women Australia website to book your place. We do have quite a few places still available, but they will be filling up. We've just started really getting out there and campaigning for the right women to come along and join us. So if this sounds like a calling for you, don't hesitate. We want you to join us and 18 other women in the beautiful Blue Karma Resort from the 7th to the 10th of August 2025. Thanks a lot, Vida, for being on the show. We'll have you back again later in the year.
Gorgeous. Thank you. Thank you.
You have been listening to the Business Women Australia podcast show. We hope you've enjoyed today's episode and gained some valuable insights to empower you on your journey. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe to stay updated in our latest episodes. And if you're not already a member of Business Women Australia, what are you waiting for? Head to our website today and join so that you can connect with a thriving community of inspiring women across Australia. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.